like this. It's more of
It's
like,
not rotate.
yeah, it's just sticky. It's kind of sticky. Like it
Don't
doesn't
get
like
so nasty.
it doesn't completely like stick.
Glue you.
Well, it's kind of like what I'm doing right now. Trying to do that. It's just to help you learn faster.
You get some of that 3M stick that you use on like the hot sockets.
Really?
No, I was saying you could.
Oh.
Cause it's not adhesive in like the glue sense of the word. It's like
Yeah.
it's just really gummy rubber, and so you can wash it if it gets dirty.
I have a pop socket that used to be good, but then I pulled off the back and started playing with, and now like it'll come off every jig. I wonder if I'm gonna be the only one here.
You might just be, but it's also only 9:02.
Oh. That means like 4 other people at the most. First time I came here there was like 12 people here. And the rest of the class there's only like 5 people. I haven't been here in a while actually.
Yeah, you came randomly to like a second service a while back, and I haven't seen you since.
I can't remember what we were doing.
Cause yeah, for a long time you were like one of the 2-3 kids that was like every first service, every week, nonstop.
Mhm. Well, that's how my grandma wants it to be.
Is that less than realistic or?
Um Today I stayed in the shower way too long.
Hey, you still made it though.
Yeah. But we were 10 minutes late. For when my grandma wanted
Wanted
us
to
to.
be here, okay, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I was like, it's still only 4 minutes after time.
Should've brought my drink.
You should've brought your
There's
what?
someone coming. Hold on.
Welcome sir, how are you?
Good.
Welcome to the amazing, energetic, excitement packed first service. That's nothing but good stuff. That's how we do it. Have you guys played the modified Smash Bros I put in?
No.
I think last
Did you play the modified one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't been playing it last time.
Do you wanna try it out? There's like a lot of characters that are not in real Smash Bros. Nice. Still got it.
I use my thumb for all input. I don't know how to do anything.
Right, I'm like, how do you what?
So
Hold
the
on.
concept of a kickflip though, or even just an
Just give it to
Yes.
some
Okay,
strangers.
but have you guys ever done an ollie on a real skateboard?
Once.
Close to.
Okay, so the concept is, right, every object wants to stay where its center of gravity is. That is the proper location for that
The
object.
foot has to
So
go.
without gravity, this would just stay here, and if you push on this side, it would just do this.
Mhm.
So the point is, if you do this faster than gravity can do it, then there is a natural reaction of this side popping. But you have to push down faster than gravity pushes down, or this side doesn't move. If you only push down as fast as gravity does, this doesn't move. So the point is for speed. So you kick up and you're really just tilting. You don't actually have to hit. You just tilt, and then you push down as hard and as fast as you can, and the other side comes up. So I don't know if I can really do it on my finger, but I've done it on a real skateboard, so we'll see.
Most people pop the tail, use the tail to hit too.
So they get a bounce.
Yeah, kinda like that.
That's how
It's
my
kinda hard
friends do
and
it.
easier.
I could try to ollie on these. I've been practicing to ollies. I'm not the greatest at them. I've got it a couple of times.
That's getting a little bit of a
Hey, he did it. Yeah, the other problem too is that it's lighter than a real skateboard, so the amount of time it spends in ollie will be shorter than a real skateboard. Just because it doesn't have the momentum. That was beautiful.
I was at the
There we go.
skate park
Nice.
yesterday, and some guy did a pop shove it, and then his friend came along running with this little fingerboard and did a pop shove it right back. It
That's
was
great.
funny.
That's fantastic.
I'm gonna show you.
You kinda gotta get it really. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I wanna see someone that can actually do this in real life.
Who stands over there sideways and gets it all flippy?
Yeah.
Ready?
I mean,
How would you land on it though? Because
Have you guys ever watched Mullins do his thing?
I watch real
We were
skateboarding.
watching the old advertisements.
okay.
This is what I could actually do when I was good at this. Oh, I did that today.
Isn't it so great?
Dude, that's not even hard. My grandma does that in her sleep. Every kid that tries to tempt her. Dude, that's not even hard. My grandma does that in her sleep. His grandma.
Dude,
Whoa.
oh, my friend was like, I can do a backflip on it, and he was like trying to get it to land on his
Oh.
fingers and like
This is Rodney Mullins. He was one of the people that everyone in my generation knew the name. Like they all knew Rodney Mullins, because he was just the best freestyle manual skateboarder there ever was.
Oh, so kinda like
it's
This
basically
is just one trick, but it's a trick that almost no one else could pick up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like it was his. He did so many other tricks though. So like that was not his only thing. His main thing was how long he could keep a manual string going and just not stop. So like most contests give you a time allotment, but that was to see how much you could get in there. But for a long time, people weren't even manualing the whole time limit. They were having to move from one manual to the next, and he was the guy who could chain a manual into another one, into another one, into another one, into another one, so that he's just doing something the entire time.
he
How did
landed on the
how did
Cuneo.
That's what I'm saying. Like this is Rodney Mullins. He is the insane do things you should not be able to do skateboarding.
how did he have like a no what? He had like a just
So these are just normal tricks he's doing. I can't wait to see what he'll do for like a big
Like
manual
that.
string. Yeah, he's just like running along, grabs his board.
first.
What was that?
This is Rodney. He is the most insane.
Almost had to say you.
So from manual to a kickflip to a manual, and he just can keep it going.
He could go forever.
It's insane. he
What?
was just upside
What was
down.
that?
He was just upside
Tricks
down. Isn't it
like-
great?
How what?
Like these are the kinds of tricks you see in a game, and you're like,
Right?
yeah, no human can pull that off. But he was the guy who could. So like Tony Hawk was all about air, all about the aerial tricks. Rodney Mullins was the exact opposite. Like he could quarter pipe, he could half pipe if he wanted to, but that's not what he was known for. That's not his specialty.
Oh here.
This is
look
his
at this.
specialty.
That's like what
His
we do.
abilities in that realm were just unparalleled. Look at that.
What
Did you miss it?
Hold on.
Go back.
What was that?
That was too far.
What?
Good morning. I was just telling him who Rodney Mullins is because like he's from my generation.
I've
Not
heard
everyone's seen his stuff. Okay, watch this trick right here. Okay, right from that,
I can almost do that.
and then which one is it? It's this one, right? Yeah, there we go. It was just like 6 tricks in 5 seconds.
I'm so confused.
Quick tricks like magic.
Yeah, exactly. And we're just gonna do this, and we're gonna do that. You know, like you do. My favorite is when he lands the board upside down and keeps going. Like he intentionally lands on the board upside down, and the board keeps moving like there's
He
wheels on
literally
it.
went like this. He kick flipped.
Came down and kept going.
How?
And then it right into the toss. Like he doesn't even wait. He did a reversal. He did a reversal in midair. It's not even a symmetrical board. This board only has a tail.
Oh, a kid in our school just put a piece of plywood on a board.
He did it again.
So in my generation, there was
Dude,
all
I
the
did
greats.
dance.
Like Tony Hawk was just barely a thing back when I was a kid.
It seems completely normal.
He's like an old man now, and everyone's been a skateboarder for a billion years now, and so like this is all old news. Rodney Mullins was the guy who didn't go up, 50 feet in the air and twirl 5 times. Rodney Mullins is the guy who's basically juggling the skateboard under his feet as he's riding along. He's just doing things with the board, and it looks like he's going in a straight line. If you only looked at the top half of his body, it doesn't look like he's doing tricks. But then you watch his feet, and he's just like, and the board is just like dancing underneath him, flipping and kicking. One of his signature tricks is to balance on one wheel. So he's just standing on the board, but there's only one wheel on the ground. And then move across the ground while rotating in 360s. Constantly rotating in 360s on top of one wheel.
Forward?
Yeah, he's moving across the ground as he's doing it. So on one wheel, just like moving in circles down the road.
He's destroyed this table. Did you when he's doing it? Look at it.
Did you see how far he can go while he's not even on his wheels? So you do double taps if you want to go back a few seconds.
See, he's just destroyed the table.
How is
He's
that
not even on
working?
wheels.
I wonder if he's waxing or is he just
There
riding?
literally might be grease on the table for all we know.
He's
It's
like,
just hard to
Yeah,
catch
because
yourself
people like
and not
this.
fall over when you
he's
do it.
like, this is one.
Mm-hmm.
But
I
still,
just
What would
do
you like?
this for a living.
nothing.
What
No,
the
oh, you had
heck?
$1 out earlier.
Watch this.
Yeah.
You put it away.
Daniel,
No,
watch what he does here. No, not here.
Now it's
Right
dark.
here.
That looks so cool.
Like what the
Upside
From a
heck?
manual to a manual. This is what Ronnie started. So people weren't really doing this before. Manual to a manual to a manual. He was like one of the first. So some people got close to as good as him, but he started first. So he was
Yeah.
always more experienced than the next guy. And so he would invent some of these manuals. Some of these were his.
He did it.
And other people had to learn how to do them.
Wait, that skateboard only had 2 wheels on the back.
Yeah, it was manual.
Every skateboard only has 2
It
wheels
looks
on the
so
back.
No, right
weird.
here. Right here. He took the front wheels off.
Oh.
He has one truck.
So his side,
He needs 4 wheels.
I don't know very much tricks, the names.
Sure.
But
So dark slide is when you do.
when you're upside down.
Yeah.
How's it?
Did he get money
What the
from
heck?
this?
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's
He was
literally a
like Tony Hawk.
helicopter.
He was the big name in skateboarding. He just didn't compete in the same contest as Tony. Tony was the vertical. He did all the aerial tricks.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
was
I
the
would
main.
like to
He was the
see.
routine.
I would
You know?
like to see Tony Hawk versus Rodney.
So like the way he started getting big
Did you
is he would
see-
enter a
did you see
contest
an
where
old
the goal
man
was how many
riding a
tricks can you do
skateboard,
in
like,
we'll give you 5 minutes, you
He's
know.
over
Show
here.
us your line.
With a walk
How do you do
Rodney's
this
over here.
this park you've got set up, you got all these quarter pipes, you got all
80
these
years old.
rails and things. And so he would get out there and from the start to the finish he would never land. Like he would never come down on four wheels and just ride. He would start the thing, come down off the quarter pipe, and then it would just be a trick into a trick into a trick into a trick into a trick, and there would never be a coasting period.
Mhm.
Cause like for any aerial you have to get speed. Like you have to. So if you're only doing manuals, you don't need speed.
See, that's what I
I've
would
been
like.
trying to see his thousand people.
Oh, probably bajillions of
I
times.
can.
Did you change your mind?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Chicken meat.
And
I-
fresh out.
I hate chicken meat. What?
What was
I
that?
can't have
I feel like you just like instituted a religion.
Okay.
Oh, you're just giving people dollars
No,
now.
I don't want the dirty money.
Oh.
You don't like chicken nuggets.
Well, I can't have them. They have meat.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
Well then, don't
So I think the problem here is
just eat chicken.
he likes meat. Alright, what would you like? Hershey's?
I just want a Hershey, not Hershey.
Oh, okay. Singular. Singular Hirsch.
I'm coming to this so I don't have to watch that Addams Family.
Is that the alternative?
Oh, I get to. I
No,
get to go to.
no, it's
I
not.
get to go to
Are you going to watch the Addams Family? Oh, okay. That face was like, yeah, yeah, it is.
There's literally gonna be 3
No,
girls going to
because
the movies with me and
Mom
one
does-
die.
Mom,
And that's me.
my mom doesn't let us go trick or treating.
And I'm like, oh wait, no,
I don't know,
no,
it's
two
like-
guys, two
It's
guys.
not that much fun.
Just me and my
It's like a whole lot of calorie burning to get those calories.
But after we come home, some of the neighbors fly out treat bars and we go into the Addams
Oh yeah. That's brilliant.
I know none of the tricks
No,
like
Do
yeah.
this, like,
do the sign up process though if you are coming, because we're trying to make it into a potluck. So you sign up by saying like what you're bringing.
nice.
So I'll be
Daniel.
We brought
Just
some
kidding.
mini. I'll be a
South Hatch
Hershey.
kids.
Ooh, this is a cool quarter. Which state is this?
I don't know.
What is this?
How much are the Arizona?
Mother trucker, dude.
Oh,
What are you
I'm
doing?
leaving
It's
in
Iowa.
the
What am I
Arizona.
looking at? It's the weirdest quarter I've ever seen.
Well, this is the weirdest one ever.
Yeah.
What is it?
What is that? It's like a 4-year-old drew animals.
That's what it looks like.
Is it
It's
like
like
bodies
two
of
dogs
water?
in a good.
Is it like the shape of some lakes they have or something?
I have no idea.
No, is there
Oh
This
yeah,
one.
there was for
Yeah,
sure
these
some little
like
kid.
okay, so this is the top. You can tell from the words. That's the bottom. What is that?
Okay, it's
That's
2
like
bears
in,
and an eagle.
Africa.
It's like in Africa.
Do you see the tree?
It's the Iowa State quarter. It's not in Africa.
Well, then why do you have an
Oh,
African
tree.
That's a normal tree.
tree that you find in the
That's a totally normal tree. Am I wrong? Does that just look like a 4-year-old drew some animals?
Oh, I have that one. Yeah.
What is that?
Why do you?
I'm googling it now
Why
because
do
I
you
can't
have
take it. I need to know.
I have a 2020.
What is on the Iowa State quarter?
I have a 2020 quarter.
But you got a different one. I think you got a bum quarter. This is what it's supposed to look like.
No, there's a bunch of them. These are all different. Like sketchy.
So they're all sketchy quarters. Where did you get them from?
He's got the weirdest quarters. Look at, he has a pheasant, a boar.
I don't know. I collect change.
Wait, does it not say Iowa? Did I misread it? Was that a date?
There's a date down there. It
Oh.
says 2022.
Wait, maybe I imagined the Iowa bit. Does it not say Iowa? Probably just imagined it.
Can I see real quick?
Give me my quarter.
How much are the
Yeah,
Arizona?
guys, no, it does say Iowa. Off to the left. Okay, good. That's great. I thought I read 2017 as Iowa.
I literally didn't see what was
That
that.
says Iowa. It also says what it
Can
is.
I have
Oh, that
How
makes
much
sense.
are the Arizona?
They're not man-made. Or they are, but they're made out of dirt. Okay, so it's
What?
literally,
It's clay.
it's called effigy mounds. I'm gonna look it up now.
How
It
much are
says
the
what it is
ears?
right on it. It's $1.
Can I please,
Okay,
can
here,
I please
here,
have
here,
them?
here.
Effigy
Have a
Mound
dollar.
International Monument. Here we go.
Let me have them
It's a real
back.
place.
Ah, gives me the quarter.
Ah, there we go. Okay, so the reason it looks like a 4-year-old made it is because there are massive giant things you can see from the sky
No, you don't.
made by Native Americans in the dirt.
Native Americans.
In the
they all
dirt.
have quarters in.
Oh.
So they were making a giant bear. Obviously it can't look as good as like a hand-drawn little bear. It's a giant
No,
hill
little man, like,
shaped
actually,
little
In
bear.
that case, I'll keep the quarters and give you $1. That is sarcastic.
See what they're doing? They've got like these mounds in They got like these mounds in the dirt that are shaped like animals, but they're really rough because it's a giant hill.
Yeah.
And so that's what's on the quarter is a picture of the mounds.
I could
It's
ride
the
on my
weirdest
I
thing
have a
ever.
lot more of these quarters if you want me to bring them.
Yeah, it's
riding
okay,
a
it's just weird.
skateboard.
And you
I
wanted
wonder if I could do
Arizona?
a trick.
Do it, Ollie.
Did you want an Arizona? Or what did you want?
Sour Patch.
Sour Patch, not even
So
close.
close. You ready? If I don't do this trick, I have to throw my skateboard across the room. Let's go.
What?
You landed it.
It's for service.
It's
You
outside.
guys usually come for
Oh!
It's 9:22. It's first service. You're here at a big first service.
This
You
is-
felt
oh my
this
God.
on first service.
I have the question.
Just by being here.
Oh my, there's so much to skate. I see so.
No.
Oh my god.
You can
Oh,
drop
well,
in.
kind of. So like, it's complicated.
Wait, you can drop in?
So I go buy them.
Daniel, you can
Then I
drop
bring them
in.
here. Then they reimburse me. Then you guys buy them. And that means you pay me back for them. So for a certain amount of time, yes, I bought them, but then eventually the church has bought them. Reimburse is a term like when you work somewhere and you don't have a company car
Let's do random
or you can
tricks.
spend company's money.
Wait.
You
Oh,
go
we
buy
should
it
turn
for
this
money,
on.
but then the company pays you for it. So it's like the company bought it,
yeah.
but for a certain
I know
few
how-
days,
I
you
know
bought it.
how to-
You bought stuff for like
My mom was
$8 or
It actually makes it kind of fly.
yeah, social buy for
Yeah,
preschool, and then the preschool pays for
What?
the food. And you
You could
generally don't make any
This is
money
how you
off
learn
it.
all of
But
it.
it's cheaper than like selling it. It's not like I bought it just for the church. Because if I bought it and sold it to the church, they reimburse that.
Oh,
I can charge more.
Hella no.
But if you get reimbursed, you actually give them the money. And then
I
they
bet I could ollie right now. We should if the air is going. If I'm
just hang in on this one for 75 minutes.
this, I bet I can ollie.
It's 15
Right
minutes.
now.
That's a lot of minutes.
If I can't ollie right now, I'll give you $5.
Or
It's
not
not
for
never
is that
really.
enough?
Creating a
I'm
line.
gonna have some juice.
How is anyone supposed to do this? No one's gonna ride a hockey board. Hockey table. Jeez.
Oh no, I actually don't like that stuff very much. So I found the alternative. It's got more vitamin C than that
Oh, you
stuff.
could cut this out and put it, put chuck in.
It's also part of that peanut stuff. It's called strawberry sea monster. It's 100% juice. It's juice, but it's thick
Oh,
because they don't
I got my
process
finger on it.
all the fruits.
Nope, I got it.
What? Well, I'm about to.
Oh, Ollie,
So
first
it's got
shot.
orange, apple,
Yeah, I
strawberry,
did.
and a grape all pureed in here, and they don't throw out the grape skin. They throw out the fruit, and they don't throw out the like it's all just blended up. So it turns summer fruit into
Try. I feel like I'm ollie. Ready?
how much time are we talking? I don't know. They don't do things. They don't sell it for piece. They sell it for pounds. So I've never done
I know I'm not doing it.
Oh, I did the calculation once upon a time.
I think I got off. I think I got
But
off.
like that was like 5 years ago. I don't know what the number is anymore.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
long.
I'm gonna have a seizure.
You guys both 2 cents away.
Oh yeah, no, not yet. What the heck is that?
It's impossible.
It was like,
Yeah, I just realized that I've been working at the church since I was
it was like a.
17, maybe 16.
And that was the one where I thought I wasn't alone. That one,
I think
yeah.
so. I'm assuming they're
Dude, the
They
last one actually felt good though. Not that one. Not that one. Wait, what if that was the last one?
usually
Oh
I'd
no.
say here, yes. Seeing it from
Every time I walk through the hallway, I see that guy just like a baby.
I was actually further over. There's like two rooms back there, the main hall. I was in the right room. I was even more lucky.
Yo.
Yeah. Me and
Oh, that
me
was
and
actually,
the
that
guy
was
took
good.
it to the side.
That was the one
And
that I
eventually
felt
we
good
were
about.
like, who they what? Yes.
Daniel, come watch this. I did it all. Daniel, come. Daniel.
I was in the middle of 3 conversations.
Now you're in the middle of 4. Come watch this.
Sorry, man. You
Look
pick.
at.
That is
I can
true.
do it better with a quarter.
Oh, dude, you should get this on
You should
slow
play
mo.
with a quarter.
You should get this on slow mo. Oh no, where'd it go? I know it dropped down.
Okay,
There
so here's the thing.
you go.
If you get your calories from
You want your
calories instead of
quarterback?
like normal food,
Yes.
if all of the calories are carbs
We should get
instead of
this
any
chair
other things,
on camera.
and so if you don't get up and move, all those calories are completely wasted. You don't get to
Oh,
make
it
it.
dropped it.
You don't get to use any of them. So if you sit here for the next 45 minutes, because I know you're gonna, and all you've had is sugar, none of that energy will be available to you by the time you get up. It's all gone.
It's a boy.
What? Yeah, it says on the top. It says war in the Pacific.
I wish I could have just saved you a $2 bill.
Me too. We keep them. We don't even turn those into the bank.
No, no.
A little stack of
Not again.
lovely little $2 bills going.
How about if it, I wish they made $3
We
bills.
didn't do this. It was already like that. We just need to find the skateboard. Yeah.
All right, everybody, grab a Bible.
I don't want a Bible.
I know, but you need to grab one and take it with you to your seat. Hey, boys, air hockey table. Grab Bible. Go to a seat. Also, little wheeled vehicles probably aren't that good for the air hockey table. If you think about it.
They're very great for the hockey table.
They're
Whatever
good.
it's
If you
called.
think about it.
They're amazing.
If you think about it.
If you think about it, they're amazing for the hockey
No,
table.
that's
and
not what I
they're
thought
awesome.
about it.
Think about that.
Hey, you just gotta throw
I'd say
it.
not bad.
Do like a super aerial, and then
The boys have
see
to
if it
be
lands.
fast.
Just yeet it
Okay,
into
we'll
the
read.
foam bucket.
Can I try to throw this in a foam bucket?
Phone.
I said phone.
I don't have any foam buckets.
But
Yeah,
there's
you
a
do.
phone bucket right
I
there.
don't have any foam buckets.
Phone. Phone. Phone.
Is that how you spell that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright, guys, we are not going to be reading off the screen today.
Swish.
Okay.
We're going to be reading out of here today. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 15.
I saw
Your
you put one.
distraction
But I
is
can't
done.
beat this.
You can't be distracted now.
Okay, which one?
Why not?
I
I've been
can't.
distracted by you, so you
It's
should
too
throw
small.
yourself in
Yeah,
the
but
bucket.
No, he's stealing his distraction.
he's stealing his distraction back? Ooh, no, I would definitely put that in the bucket.
I'm not gonna be like this while.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yep, you are.
It's going in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if it falls out, last though I get it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll take it.
Right.
I'll take it. Okay, then I'll put on my quarters name. Everybody starts putting random things in the bucket.
He's gonna call my bluff. He's gonna be over
I'm
there
just
like
gonna
doing
put
kickflips on a
myself in the
quarter.
bucket.
See, Daniel. See, you should have let me put them in the bucket. All right. We are in Genesis chapter 15 today. You need a Bible.
Oh wait, yeah, 'cause he took mine.
Dar. That's not Genesis 15.
I know.
Genesis 15 is on like the 12th page of the Bible. It's way early.
I'm already there.
Yeah, it's
Good job.
right here.
I literally flipped one page, one time.
Oh, yes.
I'm at this weird page.
That's a close enough page, right? 12, 537. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. You're like one off. You're so close. Okay.
No.
Is hers? Wait, 15. What is she pointing at? I'm like, that doesn't look right. Okay. Open Bible. Good. Read along even if it's not your turn to read. Capiche?
Read along, even if it is not your turn to read. Words of Daniel.
Hold on. That's why I got my own book in there.
Yep.
Okay. Last week we were looking at Abraham as he went and he rescued his nephew Lot. Lot was living in a different city than him. They had split up in the first part of chapter 13. And the city that Lot moves to, Sodom, is one of 5 cities that rebels against their overlords. There were some kings in a far-off country over in Babylon and even further, like Persia, that were oppressing the people in the area where Lot had moved to. They were forcibly taxing them. So, like, they weren't doing anything for them. They were just threatening them and saying, give us money or else. It's a lot like the mafia. No real service, just the fee. So eventually some people rebel, including Lot's city. The kings say, we ain't having none of that. After a bit of rebellion, they rush on over with their army. They hit a bunch of cities on the way, and the last places they go to is Lot's city. So after they destroy the city, take all the rich stuff, kidnap all the people, and then start going home, Abram finds out about this because one guy makes it. He escapes. He goes to Abram and says, help, everyone's been kidnapped. And then Abram goes and rescues them. He keeps none of the plunder. Like, he keeps none of the rich stuff he gets back. He gives it all back to the original owners. And then he goes home. And that's where we pick up. So he's just done a really cool, brave thing. And now we get to figure out where we are on the timeline. A lot of the little stories, like last week and the one before, we didn't get any sort of hints into like how long it has been since the original promise, since the original going into the land of Canaan. If you guys recall, he went into the land of Canaan when he was how old?
21?
He was like an old guy when he went into the land of Canaan.
5,000.
When he started like saying, okay God, I'll go where you want me to go. I'm gonna go off into the desert, wherever you tell me to.
480.
Do you remember how old he was?
I think it was like 6 something, right?
6 something.
Yeah, 6.
697.
Like a number
Two.
6 and then another number?
6, like 59, but not that number.
something.
You're thinking of Noah.
Oh.
Yeah, Noah got that old. Abram didn't get that old. Abram was 75 when he went off to go.
Oh, when you
start
said
following
old,
God.
I thought you meant like Jesus old and.
Well,
like
but-
How long ago? Was that what you were thinking?
But
Kinda.
old
Okay,
is
yeah,
like
yeah.
back then in the Bible. It's
Well, okay, but
old
time
as-
out. We're actually in chapter 15 of Genesis. It's been thousands of years since creation already. Just in 15 chapters, we've moved through thousands of years. So we're already at a point where lifespans are dropping. They are dropping. So like Noah lived to be 950. His sons only lived to be 600. So from generation to generation, it went from the 900s boof to the 600s. The next generation boof. They didn't get to live to 600, and the next generation boof. And it just keeps dropping until eventually you get to what we have now. 120 is the max.
Actually, there's a woman that's.
You
like
keep saying this, people keep saying this. I've never found the documented evidence. I have looked. There is no evidence of someone who lived over 120 recently.
She's a
Not
hundred.
recently. She
That's
died.
my
She
point.
died like a year ago. Last year.
No, I've looked. There is no one over 120 that
Search
can
up-
verify their actual birth.
There's one person that's 100. That's the oldest person in the world.
Okay, let's.
No.
Do you don't believe me? That's fine.
No.
That's fine.
It's
We'll look
not
it up.
My
No,
friend's
no.
great grandma is 102.
Well, she. Okay,
That
whatever.
was- she was the oldest person alive, but no.
I think. I don't know.
Okay. Recent oldest person ever was in Japan. She was 116. She almost made it to
Oh, that's
117.
the person I was thinking about.
Yeah, funny, isn't it? Okay,
yeah,
so
funny.
all right. Anyways, the point was at this point we are moving from those 600s to those 120s, and we are not at the 600 side of things. We are like already coming down south of 200. So this is already getting close to 120 this quickly. And just so you know what quickly means, we're talking 10 generations from Noah to Abram. So from 950 to the almost 120 mark, it was only 10 generations. That's it. So 8 greats and then a grandson. That's basically how it breaks down. subtract 2, and that's how many greats you get. Okay, so in chapter 15 now, we get to see how far we are from that 75-year-old Abram. How old is he now? How many years has it been since he went off on the promise that God's going to give him a son, going to give him a land, going to give him cool stuff? And you get to read us the first section. So go ahead, you get to read us just verse 1.
Sometime later.
Welcome, grab a Bible. We are literally just getting started, which is stupid because it's 9:36, but good for you because you didn't miss much. I just did the summary of last week, which you were here. So.
Wait, instead of God saying he'll give him land, didn't he say he would give his descendants land?
Yes, but we're getting there. That was last week. This week it changes a little bit. God likes to up the ante sometimes. All right, so go ahead. Read us. We're in Genesis 15. Read us verse 1. You can still read verse 1, by the way.
Found it.
Sometime later the Lord spoke to Abram in a vision and said to him, "Do not be afraid, Abram, for I will protect you, and your reward will be great."
All right, so Abram just went off to war and came back alive. He went with a few hundred guys against thousands and thousands and thousands of guys, and he won. Why do you think he would be afraid? Seems like he should be high as a kite, just like totally ecstatic. I can beat anyone. You know, no one can defeat me. Why is God coming to him in a vision and saying, like, don't worry, man. I got you.
I got you.
Why would God be saying that? No ideas? Well, the battle he just won, he didn't win by killing everybody. He won by driving them off. He went and snuck up on them in their sleep, and they retreated hardcore because they were freaking out and had no idea what was going on. They left all their stuff behind, which he then took. Because they were thieves, they took all that stuff. He was taking it back to its original owners. That means he didn't beat an army in the sense of they can't come back at him. He beat an army in the sense of he embarrassed them.
So he's afraid that they're gonna come back at him and kill him.
Well, yeah, in a fair fight, he stands no chance. Like, in a fair fight, he would be obliterated. So God's telling him, don't be afraid. I'm going to protect you. It's not you versus them, it's me versus them, says God. That's pretty cool.
Wait, how would he carry all the stuff back? Did he have
He
like,
wasn't
a
alone.
wagon?
He had hundreds of guys.
Oh.
Yeah, and
he took neighbors that are closest from him, allies with him, and surprised them.
Yeah, he had like 3 families that were Canaanites, actually. But they lived close enough to him. They were close friends. He took them. Plus, when they went to go attack, they were freeing kidnapped people. So a lot of what got stolen was able to be carried home by the people it was actually stolen from. Does that make sense? So there's a ton more people there than even he came with. But they weren't fighters. They were all like tied up and weaponless. They were available for carrying stuff home, though. So, anyways, could you read us verse 2 and 3?
Sure. But Abram replied, also sovereign Lord, what good are all your blessings when I don't even have a son? Since you've given me no children, Eliezer of Damascus, a servant in my house, will inherit all my wealth. You have given me no descendants of my own, so one of my servants will be my heir.
Dang. Abram is real with God. This is his real legitimate fear, is that he's going to die before he has a kid. God promised him a kid, but he has no kid. As far as he knows, he can get as rich as he wants. He could start a whole country, and then it's going to go to his servant when he dies. He has no descendants. He has no heir. So right now, his top man, his right-hand guy, that's his heir. That's the best he's got. He doesn't have any daughters. He's got nothing. So in his mind, God's promised a lot and delivered very little. So he's like, well, it doesn't matter if you prosper me. It doesn't matter if you protect me. What good is my life if I don't get to pass it on? Yeah.
Does he have any other family other than Lot?
He has his wife.
Yeah, he has his wife with him. Lot's a few towns away. His dad died, and then like the rest of his family because one of his brothers, Lot's dad, died too. So his dad died, one of his brothers died. One of his brothers lived. And then his wife has a sister. Those 2 people, though, aren't anywhere near them. So I don't know if you remember the map. I didn't put a map up of this because we weren't going to talk about it this week. But do you remember the map where like Abram went all the way north to get all the way south? because there was like a big desert in the middle. Well, when he got to the top, this is where his dad, his surviving brother, and his wife's sister stayed. They stayed up here. Then he kept going south. Dad dies, but that brother and sister-in-law, they were still up there, and they kept having, their own two families, and so those family lines were still continuing, but they're way up here. So it's like a whole country away. But yes, they were not dead. And then they actually come back into the story later. Eventually, one of his descendants goes back up north and meets their descendants, and they reconnect. But yeah, close by, his wife. That's it. It's pretty rough. I mean, God pulled him out here and said, I'm going to make you the start of a country. You're going to have so many descendants. But there's none yet. There's none. Okay, your turn to read. Go ahead and read us 4 and 5.
Alright. Then the Lord said to them.
Him.
Sorry. No, your servant will not be your heir, for you will have a son of your own who will be your heir. Then the Lord took Abram outside and said to him, look up into the sky and count the stars, if you can. That's how many descendants you will have.
It's a pretty amazing promise. That's how many descendants you will have?
There's like millions of
uncountable
stars
number.
in the sky, so he's gonna have millions.
Well, keep in mind too, you can actually ask scientists today, they've done some research into this. What is the number of stars that exist versus what is the number of stars you can see?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that interesting? So like, it's not a thing where someone sat there and went, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They just literally have records of all the stars in the sky. They're numbered by now. And then we have their relative brightness calculated out and written down throughout the year, with clouds, without clouds. If you're standing on a mountain or if you're at sea level, like we have their relative brightness all calculated and written down. And so you can actually take that, stick it in a spreadsheet, sort by brightness, and go, okay, anything dimmer than this, humans can't see. Naked eye, standing outside, you can't see that. So we'll just delete that part of the list. What's left, boom, there you go. So we can actually like tell this is what's visible, but then, like, well, what day of the year is it? Which direction is the earth facing? Which hemisphere are you in? How close to the equator are you? Like, all of these questions matter. God's just saying, go ahead, try. To one guy in one place at one time, that basically means you can't do it. The only reason we know now how many stars you can see is because we've had hundreds of years to pool the knowledge of hundreds of scientists. For one guy to just stand out there at night, you'd never get through the stars. For one thing, if it took you all night, the sky is actually like relatively moving. So you would start losing stars off one horizon and gaining them on another horizon as you're trying to count. Like, it'd be horrible. But that's the point. God's not saying, look at that exact number. I'm going to give you that exact number. Nope. God wouldn't do that because he knows that Abram can't. He's saying, see how impossible it is for you to count those? That's how impossible it's going to be for you to count your kids. And your kids, 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 and your kids, 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 and your kids, 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 kids. Your descendants will be so numerous, you couldn't count them. That's basically the promise. Yeah.
Is descendants kids, family members, or just people really close to you?
Descendants means people who are born from you and born from them.
I thought it was just the movie.
Nope. No, it literally means my kids and grandkids and great-grandkids and great-great and infinitely on.
Will he have favorites?
I guess you have to read the book to find
Well,
that out.
I don't know if you know how the story goes, but yes, favoritism is a really strong theme in Genesis, and you get to see the kind of favoritism that God has, where it actually makes the family better and stronger, contrasted against the kind of favoritism that humans have, and the way that it actually destroys families and creates not just rifts, but wars.
Does he only name like 5?
No, it's not that bad. He names people. They all get a name. But no, number of kids will come up next week. So today we're not going to mention it. But favoritism does come up. Okay. Your turn. Please read us verse 6.
It's my
Oh, did I skip you? 1, 2, 3. Yes, I did. Sorry, your turn, verse 6.
And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith.
Now, this verse is one of the most important verses, period. That is one of the most important verses that exist. Read it again. It's that important. And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. What does righteous mean?
Like holy or yeah.
Perfect.
God.
I thought it was
Mm.
like
Oh. Say that a little louder.
Perfect.
Perfect. It's a specific kind of perfect. So, for instance, a perfect chair is not righteous, right? A perfect chair is strong, it's comfortable, it's, you know, there's like qualities that go with a chair, and you could say perfect about that thing, and you know it's only perfect in those ways. A perfect chair does not have to taste good. It'd be a little weird if it did. You get what I mean, though? Like, perfect means that thing done without flaw.
Thing is, why would you
Righteous
try to eat a
is a
chair?
particular kind of perfect.
Unless you wanna
Righteous
eat
is
wood
perfect in
or metal,
your
whatever the chair's made of.
wood sounds good.
rightness, wrongness.
Like, why would you try to eat this
Forget
chair?
the eating the chair. That was a joke, okay? Let it go. Righteous is perfection in your rightness and wrongness. So whether you do the correct or the incorrect thing, perfection. You perfectly always do what is correct. That's righteousness. It is literally the quality of being right. So reread that verse. And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as perfectly right at all times because of his faith. That's so weird when you think about it, because
Yes, faith.
you can have faith in like Santa Claus. You can have faith that a
I don't
chair will
have
hold
faith
you
in Santa
up.
Claus.
You can have faith that eating the cheeseburger will not kill you. You can have faith in
Oh,
so many
eating the
things,
chair.
and it usually only does one tiny thing. Like, you have faith that a chair holds you up. You know what that does? You sit in the chair. That's what it does. If you have faith in
Or you
chairs
eat the
holding
chair.
you, you sit in them. If you have faith the chair tastes good, then you eat them. Okay. If you have faith in God, God can count you as
Righteousness.
righteous. That is so disconnected feeling. Because like everything else, I don't think this cheeseburger will kill me. That faith means I'm going to eat the cheeseburger. I don't think the chair's going to fall apart. That gives me the action of I'm just going to sit in the chair. I'm not going to inspect it. I'm not going to get down and wiggle all four legs and see how strong are these. No. When you have faith in God, he can count you as righteous. Now that is wild because this goes against every other world religion. Every other system that man has invented of how to become right, in every other context, every other world religion, every other holy book, you know what it always involves 100% of the time?
No.
You have to stop being wrong.
Oh.
All of the time.
That's like impossible to do.
That's the point. You go to any other religion that tries to help you become perfectly right, and literally it always includes quit being wrong. You have to somehow just start being perfect.
The way you
And
said that.
and somehow people haven't figured it out. You can't. They honestly think when they join a new religion, like, oh, see that guy up front? He must be better than me. I want to be like him. And they try to do what he does, try to become like him, do all those things, study what he studied. And the sad truth is, the guy up front is never perfect.
He's a big
He might be, I don't know. I wasn't going to go that far. He might just be a complete fraud. He could actually be legit in the sense that he is trying to be perfect, and maybe he is even doing a better job than you.
Well,
But the
guy might
point
be
is, he
insane.
can't be perfect. He might be slightly more perfect than you, but he's not perfect. And so, like, the promise of all the other religions in the world is, we'll help you become perfect. How? Have you ever done it?
the pumpkins being perfect.
At
just being
what?
creepy.
Okay, yes. That's what we were talking about earlier. There's different kinds of perfection. Pumpkins are generally pretty perfect pumpkins until they're rotten.
Like, look at his face and his mouth is like
being erased.
It's
His mouth is half gone. Someone did like pencil or magic marker or something. Okay,
I bet you did it.
move on. This is foundational. This is big. This is huge. This is something that God starts all the way back in Genesis, and some people miss it. They read the Bible, they completely miss it, and they honestly think like, no, God just wants me to follow the rules. That's really what it's all about. You know, they keep reading, they get to the part in like Leviticus, Exodus, they read the rules where God just says, do the thing, do the thing, do the thing, and they're like, oh, see, we thought God was joking. He said like, you know, just have faith. No, now we get it. Now we just have to follow the rules. Then we'll be good. Thank you for coming, Elise. You didn't have to rush on down. I appreciate it though.
I smell candy in the air.
It is kind of Halloween time, and people across the room are eating candy.
You know, are you planning
Take
to
your
share
pick. It
that?
could be any of these things. Could be any of these things. So guys, this is what I'm getting at though, is that even with people who study the Bible, okay, the Jews, they studied this. Christians, they study this. I kid you not. Muslims used to study this. Used to.
So they don't do it anymore.
The Quran says to. The Quran literally says, study this.
Who's
and
the Quran?
the Quran is like their holy book. It's the holy book of Islam.
Oh, cool.
So the Quran actually says, study this. And then in more recent years, the past few hundred, the people who run the religion, the imams, the teachers, they say,
Don't read it.
Don't look at the Bible. Don't study the Bible. So at some point in history, yeah, Muslims studied the Bible too. The point was, they read all this, and they forget little verses like that set the tone for the whole book. And then you read the giant list of rules that comes later, and they go, oh, well, I'm glad it's so clear. It's all about the rules. It's what it's all about.
There's something wrong with our brain.
And you get that idea, and you know what? It starts to kind of make some mathematical sense. Like, how many verses are there dedicated to rules? How many verses are dedicated to have faith and I'll give you righteousness? In the Old Testament, it counts a little off. There's a lot more about rules. So by the numbers, you know, this seems like a footnote, and the rules seem like the real deal. They seem like the big part, the important part. But that's not really how God talks about each of them. When he talks about the rules, he's talking about like, hey, I want you to run your country like this, but he's talking like one country at one point in history. It's not meant for all people for all time. And it didn't make them righteous. They didn't follow the rules and magically get into heaven. He said, follow the rules and I'll make your country awesome. That doesn't exactly
One
sound like
country
the same
is
thing.
awesome.
He didn't say, and I'll
It's
make you
America.
righteous.
What you talking about?
He only says that here about faith. That's why this verse is so important. This is how God can give you righteousness. Something that you can't get on your own. You can't have perfection on your own. We all know that inherently, but a lot of religions lie to people. A lot of people get the wrong idea. A lot of people just decided early on in their life, well, since I can't be perfect, I'll just be better than that guy. As long as I'm better than that guy, that's good enough.
Wait, the thing is, you can't be better than that guy because you guys are different.
And you don't know how bad he is either. You just think you know. Some people literally have the idea in their head, well, you know, not as bad as the Nazis. I'm not as bad as people who are politically malaligned with me. You know, people on the other side of politics, you know, they're worse than me, so I'm pretty good.
I'm better than this guy.
I'm better than the worst guy I can think of. I'm better than the guy I don't like. And that's like good enough. In most people's books, that's good enough. That means I'm good.
Shouldn't you be better at than your like bad
The
self?
best person. You should be better than the best person you know. Then you could call yourself good.
That's
By
me.
being better than the worst person you know,
I'm kidding.
that just means you're statistically average. You could even be below average and that would still be true. Yeah.
But Hitler's like
Yes!
No,
That's what
no,
people
no,
do.
no.
Mentally, people are like, well,
No.
I'm not the worst, therefore I'm good.
yes,
Dude,
so
he's like all
That's not
all the way
logic.
down here.
Hitler's the
He's
part.
he's
That's actually
basically-
denial. It's not even good sound reasoning.
He's actually like below the ground.
He's below hell.
Well, no. Okay, guys, follow me on this. You can't know what's in another person's head. So it's not fair to judge a person who might be good. It's also not fair to judge a person you've already judged.
Well, we
He's
You
know
already
what.
judged Hitler. I've already
He's a
judged
bad
Hitler.
guy.
Well, we already
We're
know.
not actually supposed to though.
Well, we're
That's not our
He's the
job.
bad
know what's in
guy.
Hitler's head.
Duh.
'Cause
Just
he shot
crazy.
himself with it.
But we don't know because we weren't him. That's my point. And likewise, we're not God. God says that Jesus
wanna
gets to
be
judge and the rest of us don't. And when you try to judge someone, you are stealing Jesus' job by literally saying, "Don't worry, Jesus, I got this. I'll do your job for you."
The thing is, who wants to be Hitler?
He's a puff
No,
guy.
that's not the thing.
No.
Okay, read the next verse.
No one.
Elise, you want to read us verse 7?
Unless
Thank you. We're in chapter 15. Hope that was clear.
Oh, insane.
He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it.
So he says that he's going to give him the land to take possession of it. What is a possession?
And the thing, like,
What's a possession?
Like something
you own.
that's sentimental to you.
Why did you answer for him? I pointed at him.
I don't know.
Shush. It was a great answer, but it wasn't your turn to answer. Sorry. Say yours again.
Something that's kind of like sentimental to you.
Oh, okay.
Sentimental.
I like that. That goes a little deeper. Yours was a good answer. It was correct, but this is like on a deeper level. Because you're right. Like I have a box of tissues at home. I don't think of them as a possession of mine. Like if you came in my house and stole my box of tissues, like
Yeah.
I wouldn't care that much. I'd be like, okay, you weirdo, why are you stealing my
Wait,
tissues?
what?
Like, but if you came in my house and stole something like my dad gave me, like I have this little pocket knife. It's practically useless as a pocket knife because it doesn't have a lock on the blade. So like if you go to whittle with it, you'll cut your finger off. Like it's terrible. But it's like it's pretty. It was expensive. It came from France. Like and my dad gave it to me.
Yeah.
So like I don't carry it on my hip. It's not great for like cutting open boxes or taking the rubber off of a cable. Like but it has a special place in my house and a special place in my heart because it was like from my dad. That's a possession.
And it came from France.
Like if you really needed it, I would just buy another one. Like I would just give you my pocket knife.
Cool.
This is not important to me. Like
That's the
Okay.
one.
it's
So you just
incredibly
throw it?
useful. I can use it on all kinds of things. It has like a little flip out screwdriver.
Ooh,
so I can like
that's cool.
tighten screws and take things apart. But like
Oh, you need to tighten my
but this is not
trucks.
sentimental. This is the third one I've had of this
Yo,
exact
what?
pocket knife
Trucks.
because I just use them till they break. So I like your answer. That is exactly what I'm going for here. This is exactly what God is trying to say
Good
to Abram.
answer, bro.
I am going to give you the land, and it is going to be your possession. Not your box of tissues, not your utility knife. It is going to be that special present that you got from someone who matters to you, and so it's special to you.
Sentimental.
It's going to be sentimental. So God's giving him the land,
It's gonna be
and it's not just a thing to use. It's not like, okay, cool, I got land, I can raise my cattle now. It's not that kind of land. It's not like, oh, good, I needed a place to stick my tent. Like, it's not a campsite. It's going to be his home. And then likewise, as you go down through the generations, it doesn't matter how much people move around, they're always going to want to come back to this place. This place is going to be special. And as you go through the hundreds and hundreds of years that pass from Abram to our day, the thousands of years that pass, the land actually gets a little not that good. There's a lot of pieces in this promised land that are just flat out desert and they want to kill you. Like if you live in certain places in this plot he's about to describe, it's bad. Like it's not a good slice of land. There are places in it that are okay. Green, water, it's nice, but there's a lot of places that are not that great. But that's not why he's giving it to him. He's giving it to him as a special place. Yeah.
I think that's why no one's there.
In the desert.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, there are people who actually live in the desert. Right now, Saudi Arabia is so stinking rich. They started farming the desert.
Farm in the desert. How do you farm the desert?
Money.
Wait, from what? Like, why are they rich?
Oil, mostly.
That's what I thought.
Mostly
Of
oil.
course
Yeah.
it is.
So like they're
Wait.
farming the desert in places. They're piping in water from wells that are thousands of feet deep. They're bringing in soil from out of the country and putting it on the ground and watering it and planting stuff and like growing things in the desert.
I want to
Like-
go to
Well,
Arabia.
it gets a lot of
So much money. It costs more money than to just buy food from another country that has good soil and like send the food in. That would be cheaper. But whatever. I'm digressing. Yes.
I'm gonna drive through a desert soon.
You're gonna drive through a desert? Which one?
Arizona.
Nice. My
In 4
grandpa lives
days.
out there. Very fun. Have you ever been to Arizona? It's at least pretty.
I ate a piece.
It's
of
not a
Arizona.
boring desert in
I
some
haven't
places,
been
anyways.
in it yet. I've been like on the outskirts.
No, I ate a piece of
Driving
Arizona.
to Utah.
Didn't taste
We'll
very
have fun.
good.
It's a long drive. Bring something
Well,
to read.
YouTube.
Yeah,
Taking
you wanna
That
know
can be a
what?
I'm
drag.
taking the
It can be
airplane,
itself,
and
or
then
it
it's
can be the drink.
No. We take an airplane and then we drive to
How long is the
Utah.
drive?
Take-
We
From
rent a car.
Arizona.
It's usually like
Mom,
3
I
or
haven't
4
eaten
hours.
How long is the drive?
So you're only driving like the last part.
Yeah.
Oh,
They don't
okay.
taste it.
How
Well,
long
that's better.
How long is the drive from here to there?
To Arizona, if you just drove straight,
Yeah.
I think you usually have to do it in like a 2-day go, depending on how far out through Arizona you're going. Sometimes 3 days.
Every
I went to
day-
Florida in
I
a
know.
car.
I mean,
and
like
we
maybe if you had
drove
2
12 hours
drivers
a
and you
day.
tagged.
Every
you
year,
could do it faster?
me and my family drive 12 hours to San Diego in the tightest car we can find for some odd reason.
For some odd reason.
Well,
Yeah.
why
Probably
the
cheaper than
tightest?
gas.
So we have a big truck that we can all fit in with
Yeah, but
spaces.
do you know what it costs to drive a truck to San Diego?
A lot.
Have you ever filled up the gas tank and seen the numbers?
Yeah.
I had to.
Yeah, those are called depression numbers. You just watch them and you go.
The depression numbers.
But,
The bigger the number gets, the more
but
sad
would
you
you
get.
rather pay money to ride there comfortable, or would you rather not pay money and ride in the
See,
tightest?
But it's not your money,
ride in
so
the
it's really
tightest-
hard to ask that question and know what the answer will be.
You have 5 people in your family with 5 seats, and it's the tiniest truck in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
see,
yeah.
I take
so
the-
this is
I
how
take
this
the
goes.
truck.
Okay, you ready? You don't bring your family if that's what you want. If you want comfort, you just don't bring them. The money thing is fixed. Either you can afford it or you can't afford it. That's all there is. You can't just say, "Well, I'll do the more expensive option because it's just comfier." Like that doesn't mean you can afford it just because it's comfier. You probably still can't afford it. All right, we're getting way off track. All right, I'm gonna read verse 8. We gotta keep moving.
Don't bring your mom with you when you go to California.
Remember, God said, "I'm going to give it to you as a possession." And then verse 8, but Abram replied, "O sovereign Lord, how can I be sure that I will actually possess it?" This is interesting because you go back like, what, 2 verses?
And he said that he had faith.
2 verses ago, Abram had faith, so much faith that God's like, boom, I'm going to count you as righteous. 2 verses later, he's like, but how do I know?
That's not faith.
Oh, that's just
like,
doubting.
I have faith in this chair.
No. Listen, you got some wisdom this morning, man. What'd you say it was?
That's just doubting.
That's doubting. Does doubting mean you lost your faith?
No, it was your faith was like going down a little.
Somehow when you sit down.
Interesting. All right, guys, this is real. This is real life. I love that the Bible captures this.
Have
That it's not just like, yep, Abram had faith and he was perfect and blah, blah, blah. He's a great guy. Like, that's not fair.
No.
How do you follow that example? If there's someone in the Bible where the Bible's just like, yep, they're perfect. Good luck. You got to be like them. Can't do it. Instead, the Bible says, here's what Abram's like. 2 verses ago, he says he has faith, and God's like, sweet, I will reward you for your faith. And then 2 verses later, it's like, he also had doubts. That's awesome! That means, follow me on the logic here, I can have faith and have doubts. And God doesn't like say in the next verse, you can peek if you want. God doesn't say in the next verse, never mind, I didn't realize you had doubts, let me take all my stuff away. You don't get nothing. It doesn't say that. You keep reading and God answers the question. So go ahead, let's read it. It's not the answer you're expecting, trust me on this. It is a weird answer, but it's an answer. So you actually get a bigger chunk this time. You get 9 through 11.
I'm fine with that.
Go for it.
The Lord told him, "Bring me three-year-old heifer."
Heifer.
What's a heifer?
It's a cow.
I knew that. Oh, I did. A 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. Why would you need a pigeon?
It's a bird. A turtle dove is a bird too.
So Abraham presented all these to him and killed them. Then he cut each animal down the middle and laid the half side by side. He did not, however, cut the birds in half. Some vultures swooped down to eat the carcasses.
Carcasses.
But
It's a dead body.
I knew that. But Abraham chased them away.
Okay.
You darn vultures.
Darn vultures. So he barbecued.
I'm so confused on what
Right?
just
This doesn't seem like an answer in our context. This is an ancient answer. So the question was, God, how do I know? How do I know that it's actually going to happen?
How do you catch pigeons?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Every time I get close to a
A
pigeon,
net?
they're
Maybe?
like,
I-
bye bye.
maybe there's like a snare you can make. where like they
like
bend
to learn
down to
that.
peck the seed and like the noose closes up. And like, I don't know how you catch a pigeon. To be
Mouse trap
honest.
with the seed on.
I always see pigeons in cages, like pre-caught.
Put a couple of seeds on
Put
it.
little seeds. The bird comes out.
Maybe I don't
It's
know.
stuck.
I
Wait,
just have
they
to guess and
mouse
wonder.
traps, though.
I think a
They're like
net's the
rat
simplest
trap.
one. You just make a net.
Glue.
Okay, guys, check this out.
Tree sap.
So Abram barbecues. Now, he doesn't just barbecue randomly. He barbecues by request. He says, God, how do I know you're going to do this? Okay. Another way to phrase this question, God, how do I know I'm not just crazy and you're a voice in my head? This is all happening in a vision, right? This could just be a dream he's having. So he might have faith in that dream, but now his doubt is, what if it's just a dream? That's a really legit doubt. Like, that's real.
That sounds like the end of a scary movie.
Where they're like, and maybe it was all in his head.
What if it was just
Oh, he wakes up.
dun, dun. And
And
then it
then-
ends the movie, and then 5 years later,
Yeah.
they come out with another
I
one.
saw one like that once, where it's like an insane asylum, and there's like a guy in there
I went to the
who's like-
scary corners,
who's like not
and they
crazy,
were not very
but then the end of the movie is,
no,
but maybe all of the
words
stuff
that
where he
came
was
out
not
of my
crazy was
mouth.
imaginary in his head. And you're like, wait, so maybe he is crazy.
I went to my
But, like,
friend's
the whole
scary
movie was he
house
wasn't
and
crazy.
then just ran out.
Anyways, the point is, he's having that exact doubt, and so God says, well, then let's have you do something real.
Real.
Let's have you do something real. Why don't you just go outside, take some of your animals, and barbecue them? You know what? Tomorrow, when you're full on awake and it ain't dark anymore, everyone's gonna know whether or not those animals are missing. Okay? This isn't gonna be a dream if you wake up tomorrow and the animals you barbecued last night are still barbecued. That's gonna be real. So get up and do something. Don't just take this vision on faith that it's like real. Go make it real. Go interact with me. Do something for me. So God asked specifically for this list of sacrifices. That's basically what they are. They're sacrifices.
Pigeon and turd.
All those past times where it says
Go.
Abram built an altar and made a sacrifice to the Lord, he basically just barbecued something. The difference between a normal barbecue and a sacrifice is that a normal barbecue, you cook the
get
meat
drunk.
till it's done and you eat it. No.
It's the
You
turtle,
cook the meat till it's
half
done and you eat
turtle,
it.
half
A
bird.
sacrifice, you cook the meat straight through done and out the other side. And the idea is, instead of getting to enjoy that, you gave it up. You could have had it for yourself. It could have been like this choice cut of beef, but instead, it's just gone.
Just imagine yourself just cooking that and just slowly
Burning it right through.
and then
edible.
there's like that taste in your mouth.
You
and
can
the
smell it, you want it, but no. You've decided this is for God. I'm just going to
That
keep on
must be
cooking it.
depressing.
Well, the idea is it's a present. Now, God can't really come and enjoy the meat on a random Tuesday. Like, He's normally in heaven. He's normally in spirit form. These are not things that enjoy actual physical meat. So the idea is you're just giving it up for His sake. Like, He's asked you to, so you do it. That's the idea. So you've given up the meat for Him. So check this out, though. He has to, chase off animals. That doesn't seem like a dream. That seems all real and stuff. Yeah.
Why didn't he stab his hand with the fork?
What do you... No, don't even go there.
Why
I don't
would
know
you
how
stab your
twisted that
hand with
logic
a
was, but
fork?
it's bad. What?
You're dreaming.
Yeah.
You stab yourself with
Oh,
a fork.
okay. That's better than what I
Oh,
was
to feel
thinking.
the pain and see if it's real or not.
Just wake up.
They don't have forks.
Well, that's
Wait, do they?
possibly true. I don't actually know if that's true. They have metalworking, so
But just
maybe.
imagine you
Oh,
waking
probably.
up.
And this
with a
isn't
frickin'
China. They
toy
didn't
in
have
your hand.
chopsticks for hundreds of years.
You
So
wake up.
why didn't he do the pain test? Okay, now first off, that doesn't always work. I've been able to hurt myself in plenty of dreams.
Me too.
Every time before
But secondly,
I wake
God
up.
told him what to do. He's not inventing what to do, right? He asked God the question. God gives the answer. So God's picking, okay? God has a bigger plan here than just see if you're dreaming.
I guess
He's
so.
got more going on. See what happens next, and it might start to answer your question. You got the next section? Yours is going to be 12 through 16.
As the sun was going down, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a terrifying darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to Abram, "You can be sure that your descendants will be strangers in a foreign land, where they will be oppressed as slaves for 400 years.
Keep going all the way through 16.
Oh, sorry.
That's
But
okay.
I will punish the nation that enslaves them, and in the end they will come away with great wealth. As for you, you will die in peace and be buried at a ripe old age. After 4 generations, your descendants will return here to this land, for the sins of the Amorites will not yet warrant their destruction.
Or do not yet
So
warrant
he-
their destruction.
Why is
like,
God
his
so
dis-
confusing?
Yeah.
Why is
Doesn't it seem a little out of the blue? So
the
here's the
reason I
deal.
was laughing. Look at verse 21. Look at the third one.
Okay.
Girgashites.
We're not there yet, chicken.
Yeah, okay. That's yours. You can start pre-reading those now if you want to, because you get to read those. It'd be good to get some practice in.
Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and
All right, guys.
Jebusites.
Should I start?
No.
Why?
Okay, so here's the deal. God gives him another vision after he does the whole sacrifice, and he gives him details this time. He doesn't just say, "Believe me, I'm going to get you the land." He says, "Okay, well, you want more. I'm going to tell you exactly how, when you're going to get the land
Yeah, his descendants are gonna be strangers.
for 400 years. For 400
They will
years
be oppressed as slaves.
in
for
a
400.
foreign land, not even this land. They're going to literally be in a different country on the road to getting this country.
As slaves
To
for
get
400
Canaan,
years.
they're going to be gone for 400 years, and they're going to come back. But then God gives them the reason. He says, because the sins of the Amorites are not yet warranting their destruction. So this is one of those questions you get from people who don't like the Bible. Okay, you get it a lot. If you go out there and you talk to people who don't like the Bible, you get this one. How is it fair? How is it right for God to destroy the Canaanites? It's a giant, just like kill everyone kind of war. How can that be right?
Just bring another flood.
No. The answer is so simple. God saw their sins out through the future, and he timed their destruction to match their crimes. Right when they were at like the peak of evil, he says, okay, that's it. That's where we're cutting you off. And so he literally transports out this guy's descendants, Abram, out of the country to let them get to their most evil, so that when they come back, it's actually the correct, proper time to destroy them all. It's the correct judgment, the correct punishment for their sins.
That'd be scary, I think.
Does that make sense? Like, God is timing this whole thing out hundreds of years in advance. He's playing this chess game where he moves people around and slides this over there and put that there. And he knows exactly when for them, this guy's family, to come back in the country so they can have the land, is when the people who are already living there are so evil, they deserve to die. They deserve to be wiped off the planet. We talked about it last week. Some of you guys weren't here. Does anybody know what their sin was? What was so bad that they deserved to be wiped off the planet?
I don't know.
You guys, some of you guys don't remember. Okay, so you were here last week. I thought I
It was
mentioned
just
it.
the two of us.
Yeah, we might have missed it on first service. Maybe I mentioned it second only. So this is the deal. In Canaan, they had a religion. Okay, they had two big ones.
Yeah,
They
Oh.
worshipped the god of Molech and the god of Baal.
the base.
And the worship of God and Baal was not pretty. It was an ugly, ugly religion. And the act of worship that like Abram is doing here, where you have a barbecue, imagine that, but like the twisted satanic version of that. So instead of like take an animal and barbecue it, which is fairly
Wait,
normal, we've been doing this for
like
thousands of
babies?
years. You sacrificed a baby.
Oh yeah, you like
Oh, that's sad.
that's all crazy.
Literally, you
I
would
remember
bring
that.
your
Oh,
kid,
right.
your baby, to the temple, and you would sacrifice your baby.
But
And
then
then
you
you
won't
use
have
this
to.
to please. No,
No,
one
just to
said eat
please
it.
your
No one said
God,
eat
which
it.
is like a
It's
fake
a
God.
made-up god they invented in their heads. He's not even real.
Wait, isn't that a good way to have your like kind or whatever race you are extinct?
Civilization.
Well, that depends on how many kids you're having and how many kids you're sacrificing. You just gotta get the ratio right.
Really? You
Mhm.
like you're sacrificing every child that's born.
It's
You
like
I didn't say every child.
It's like, okay,
Might as
kids,
well.
I want to sacrifice two of you and keep you guys.
I don't know if you guys understand, but like, you joke. That's like a constant threat in their culture.
Yeah.
Hey, if you don't behave, I'm gonna cook you.
if you don't impress, if you're not the healthiest, like
If you're not the best of the best.
you stand a chance of
You're
being
getting
picked.
cooked for dinner.
Children, you just better listen. Oh, I'm gonna cook you.
That's a wild thing. So as this progresses and as it becomes more and more popular, God says, okay, there it is. That's the time when your whole country is given over to this. Your whole country has decided, yeah, this isn't a problem. Nothing wrong with this.
Are you mental?
Okay, no, this is where it gets real mental. When the Canaanites' time has finally come, it's finally time for judgment, and the Israelites are headed back in. They're done with their 400-year stint, right? Moses leads them up to the border. Joshua leads them in. They're coming in. God says, okay, Now, they're all part of this. I want them all gone. I want all the Canaanites gone. So Israel, as you come in, destroy, kill, or drive out of the land. Those are your options. You burn it down, you kill the people, or you get them out of the land. Do not leave any of them here. If you let them live in your country...
You're dead too.
No. He says you will bear the consequence.
Oh.
I'm not going to destroy you for the disobedience. I'm going to let you suffer for your disobedience. Because what should happen if you leave a bunch of people who worship a fake god, and the worship is kill your kids and do all these horrible, wretched things, and you let them stay, the religion's going to be here still. Because it exists in the minds of the people. And if you let that stay in your country, then guess what happens?
It comes back.
It comes back. And you know what happened? Because they didn't destroy everyone. They didn't kill everyone. They thought they were being smart. They're like, oh, what if we let them live here and we tax them? We're like, you can stay. We won't kill you like we killed those other ones in the town next door. We'll let you stay. You just have to pay us lots of money.
Oh, cows.
That's greed.
Yeah! And you know what came back to bite them? The religion. Hundreds of years go by, and
Making
they
a
start to
bargain
lose
right
track
there.
of who's who, and everyone's intermarried, and the religion still exists. And the idol's still there, and the religion's still there.
That's scary stuff, man.
It's terrible.
Well,
But
at
God
least we
said,
get
if you
there
don't
now.
get rid of them, and you didn't have to kill them, you could just get them out of the land. If you let them stay,
Well, but
the religion stays.
Yeah,
And
like-
that's going to come
He
back and bite you.
If you
He
drive
could
them out
have
of the
said,
land,
you pay us a lot of money, we won't kill you, but you still have to go.
That doesn't make any sense. What are they paying for?
To live.
They were paying to live and stay.
wait. But if you drive them out of the
If
land,
you give me
they're gonna
$1
die
trillion,
slowly because they have
I
no
won't
food.
kill you.
Because you're not
but
even
you have
letting
to
them
live.
pass.
There's other
out.
land. You can just find any place. All right, so
I say kill them all.
last section, all yours.
Yeah. All right. So from 17 to 21.
You got it.
21.
After the sun went down and darkness fell, Abram saw a smoking firepot and a flaming torch pass between the halves of the carcasses. So the Lord made a covenant with Abram that day and said, I have given this land to your descendants all the way from the border of Egypt to the great
Euphrates?
Euphrates River, the land now occupied by the
Kenites?
Kenites,
Sure.
Kenizzites,
Kenizzites?
Kenizzites, Cadmonte, I don't know,
Cadmonites?
Cadmonites, Hittites, I don't know.
You were so close. There's just too many syllables. Hittites.
Oh, close enough. Parasites.
Yeah. Sure. Parasites. Sure.
Rephaites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites.
Yeah, no, he got it. Girgashites is good.
Oh, I love that name. And Jebusites.
Jebusites.
Those are nice. Those are nice.
There's a lot of
people
ites.
Those are weird names.
there. Yeah.
You have to take a bath and get
Like
one of those
they're
Dawson
parasites.
combs. Okay, so he lists the people, he lists the boundaries, and this is basically the I left my remote, didn't I? I need to do a quickie quick. Oh, there it is. I made you guys a map.
There's like.
This is the map.
Hittites.
Okay, so this is what's crazy, guys. This is the area that God specifies, and this boundary is a perfectly straight line because we don't actually know how it curves exactly. The other boundaries are the sea, a river, and a river. And so those boundaries we know pretty well. You just follow the river, follow the sea, follow the river. This one we don't know because all he gives later on is this point where the river comes out into the sea, and this point, a city on the river. We don't actually know if he means like this whole chunk or a straight line or like come from here to there. Like you're guessing on that southern border, so I don't know. But the point is, this is a huge area. This green section is gigantic. This encapsulates several modern day countries. Israel is a tiny slice over here.
Yeah.
Tiny slice.
Remember
So
there's
the
the
actual
parasites
land
too.
that's being promised here is massive, and Israel never gets all of it. At their biggest time in history, when Solomon was king, they probably had about 15 to 20% of this. at their best moment in history, they only had like a fifth of what God was promising to them. Now, granted, a lot of this stuff right in the dead center is dead. it's just desert. It's not that great. Most of the good stuff is around the edges where there's water nearby.
Of course there is.
That's where all the good land is. It's right around the edges, the whole perimeter. And based on that, they actually got a pretty good slice. So this section has 2 water sources, both the sea and the river and the tiny little lakes
What are you doing
at
to
the
the
top
chair?
and bottom.
I feel like there's gum under there.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
Is that important, right? Nah.
I may have touched it on accident.
Oh, okay, that is important.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think there's gum, but you could check.
Yeah.
See, if he finds gum, he's gonna
You
put
could
it
also
in his
just
mouth.
skip the check and wash your hands and not touch the bottom of the chair again.
That's
There's a thought.
I still want to check.
Wash your hands is a good safety call.
You're probably gonna put it in your mouth if you
Also, I
find
have to
it.
go to the bathroom, so this.
That's perfect timing. Okay, so let's wrap this up. God does something in answer to his barbecue to try and cement in his mind, this is real, this is not in your imagination. He takes the barbecue and he appears. He walks through with like the oldie tiny equivalent of a flashlight. He's got his little fire pot and he's walking through kind of looking at the sacrifice that Abraham's made. This is God coming down into Abram's camp. Just checking out, like, good job, you did what I asked. Well done. Yeah, that's nice. And he confirms to him the promise, and he lists out the people whose land is going to be taken. And he says, why? They are evil, and they're growing in their evilness, and that 400 years from now, they're going to be so stinking evil, they're going to deserve punishment. They're going to deserve to be wiped out.
They're gonna be smelly.
So I will walk you out of the land, and I will walk you back. Now, right here, the super lush green spot is where his descendants get stuck as slaves. So if you picture this in your head, like you know your descendants are going to become slaves. He doesn't exactly know where, but we have that in the future chapters in the Bible. Like, where do they go be slaves? Here. Basically the greenest spot, the nicest spot on the entire map. And it's within the boundaries of the place God says he's giving him. I think that part's interesting too. So as they retreat off into the corner of the land God promises them, the nicest, luscious spot, they get stuck there for 400 years as slaves eventually.
Shouldn't it be celebrating then?
See, that's kind of it. Is like, even in the hardest part of God's plan, there is provision. There's a way for you to survive. It's not like God said, I'm going to send you into slavery and you're all going to die. He said, this is just a middle step to where I'm taking you. It's really odd that God can use such terrible, ridiculous, awful sounding middle steps. And it's all part of a bigger plan that takes you somewhere really cool. And so he just lays this out before Abram and says, this is what's going to happen. Don't be freaked out. Tell your kids, tell them to tell their kids. It's not going to be the end of it. This is just a middle step. And eventually he walks them out of there, and he does it in a miraculous way. If you guys don't know the story, that's in Exodus. It's when God does like the 10 plagues on Egypt and walks them out through the Red Sea. That's what we're talking about. Like, it's insane. And it's all just part of the giant plan God's crafting way back here. This is over 400 years before all that Exodus nonsense. So God's got the whole plan written down in his head, and now he's revealing it to Abram. And he says, it's real, Abram. Obviously, you're not seeing this happen in the timing you're expecting. And so that's why he goes as this with his answer. Like, Abram says, how do I know it's going to happen? Well, let me tell you how it's going to happen. That doesn't sound like a straight answer. How do I know it's going to happen? Let me tell you how it's going to happen. Wait, what? Well, because if God just says it's going to happen, and he doesn't explain how, well, it's going to seem like God's wrong. Think about it. Abram's going to live to 100 and something, and the plan takes 400 years. So to Abram, that's kind of like the plan's not going to happen, right? Because he's going to die before the whole thing comes through.
He thinks he's gonna die.
Does that make sense? He's going to die before the whole plan happens. That's kind of like it doesn't happen. From his perspective, it feels like it didn't happen. So that's why God chooses to explain, here's how. He walks the whole plan out in front of him and says, here's the timeline. And then Abram can look at it and go, this is why it seems like I'm making no progress. I thought it was like a 10-year plan, God. I thought it was like 10 years. Now, quick factoid. I don't know if you guys caught it. How old is he at this point? Did anyone catch it?
No.
At this point in the story, is 86.
He's old.
Yeah, but when did this all start? Does anyone remember?
He was 75, I think.
75. It has already been 11 years, and the progress on the plan, step 1, have a kid, hasn't happened yet. So from Abram's perspective, the plan has made a 0 progress. That's it.
Because he
None.
thinks he's gonna die anytime soon.
He thinks he's gonna die any day. He still has no kids. God's plan not happening. That's what it feels like. So this is my encouragement to you guys. When you feel like things in your life are not progressing, not moving, they're not happening, nothing's going on, or maybe you've actually talked to God and God said, here's what I think is going to happen for you. Do you want to be a part of it? This is my plan for you. This is what I've got laid out in front of you. Do you want to go this way? And you're like, yeah, let's do it. And then like a year goes by and nothing happens. Maybe 2 years goes by and you're like, nothing's happened. God's plan for you is not necessarily going to happen in your timing. It's going to happen in His timing.
Why you bullying me?
Exactly.
So take some hope from that. That means your faith in Him does not have to be perfect. You can have doubts, but tell Him about your doubts. Because His answer will help. It may not be the answer you want, but it helps. Yeah, and it can be confusing. So oftentimes you need to share that answer with other people who are wiser, smarter, older, more mature, and they can help you understand it. But sometimes you just need the patience. Sometimes the answer is, don't worry, it's a 400-year plan.
Yeah, 400 years. I'm not gonna
I
live
want
that
a
long.
400-year plan. I want a tomorrow plan.
Exactly.
I want it to happen now. Abram's faith, though, was that it would happen. And God's answer was apparently enough because we keep reading and his faith was held up. And it doesn't mean he was perfect. We're still going to see Abram fall. We're still going to see Abram make mistakes in several big ways.
And have doubts.
And have doubts. Next week, big doubt. Huge doubt.
Ooh, I want to be here for that.
He fails on. It does not end well. But
Wait,
he talks to God.
Tomorrow?
He meant next week.
I meant next week. I tried to correct myself.
He's just,
'Cause I meant
crazy a little.
Tomorrow next week. Yeah, I heard that.
I'm not as bad as my daughter, my 3-year-old. She says interchangeably, the other day, yesterday, another day, last year. Those are all the same. It could have been yesterday, and she might say last year.
And the B-I-B-I-B.
Yeah, and the B-I-B-I-B. I'm glad you remember that one.
What's that?
She sings the bingo song, but with the Bible letters. But then she sometimes gets stuck on the first 3 letters and just loops them. So it's the B-I-B-I-B-I-B-I-B. Yes, that's the book for me. No? Okay.
B-I-B-I-B.
Or sometimes it actually is the bingo song, and it's like B-I-B-I-B, B-I-B-I-B, B-I-B-I-B. And like at some point you lose track of where you are and you just keep going.
The B-I-B-I-B-I-B.
This is what he latches onto. I try so much and then we get 3-year-old humor. It's okay. Alright, so that's it for today. Let's pray.
Bingo.
Oh, Lord, you are faithful. Help us to have that same faith that Abram had. The faith that just says, I don't get it, I don't know how it's going to work, but God, you said so, so I'll trust that it's going to work. Help us, Lord, to talk to you about our doubts, to not hold on to those and keep them private, to keep them separate from you, but to bring them to you, Lord, and just lay them at your feet and say, I don't understand, I don't get it, but I'm just going to keep going on your plan. Help us, Lord, to talk to you and be honest, to figure out what your plan even is. Help us, Lord. We aren't born with awesome amounts of faith. We just need to walk with you. So help us, God, to do that day by day, talking to you, growing in that faith. We love you, Jesus. We ask all these things in your name. Amen. I love you guys. Hey, don't forget there's flyers for Snacktober 31st on the kitchen counter. We will be here on October 31st from 6 to 9, eating candy, sharing in an awesome potluck.
31st?
October 31st, 6 to 9.
No.
It's going to be epic snackage.
We got money.
Wait, does the skateboard count?
It does, but he lost.
Ooh.
Skateboard loses.
I don't care, I still have $1.
I want it. I don't want it.
This is how I tech deck.
Let me see the thing.
Look at all my kickflips.
He just
Stop
throws
being
it.
Rodney.
Well, if he doesn't want it, I take it.
Oh my, that was just
That was
like
a bad
Rodney.
bounce.
It's tech 8.
You better hurry, man. He's walking off with your tech deck.
Can I have my tech deck?
But I was gonna eat it. Like I was gonna barbecue it and then eat it.
Yeah.
You were gonna barbecue it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I don't want it.
Have a good one.
Turn
Yeah.
this back on.
I'm out of it.
Oh, yes, please. What would you like? Sorry, what? Oh no? I could just go Indian drinks and see what's there. Okay. The drinks thing, man. See you, Max. Have a good one. Thank you for being here. I was not trying to put the pressure on you. I was just letting you know for future reference. But thank you for being here. Yeah, Jane's sick, and so Em's staying home. Yeah. They're getting more strict on me with policies. They want me to be more strict on policies. And one of them is, as an adult in a room full of kids, you're supposed to be moral. So it stunk that it all happened today. Cause like usually Emily's here. So like even if every leader can't make it, I'm still not alone, technically.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. You had your weekend, and that's what happened. Oh my Nate. Is there anything else but games?
Crud.
I just meant in your life in general, not necessarily in this game.
Yeah, BMXing.
Oh, you BMX?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's awesome, man. Did you know? Do you know Lisa Jackson?
Yeah.
Do you know her son AJ?
Yeah, AJ, yeah.
He was mad into BMX, man.
Up until the point where I'm still fixing my back after I broke it.
Yeah, he did trials and everything all over the state.
Was that the bike that you always rode in my house?
Yeah. I kinda went up for something and my back kinda hit something weird and my face first into, what would you call that? Metal? Metal rod?
How is Ganondorf more flexible than me?
How was
That's
he
not
what?
fair.
He gets to what?
Ganondorf is more flexible than me.
Well, he is like a warlock.
That's not fair.
Well, once magic enters it, I don't think things stay fair for very long. Cause you get things like a little kid with a red baseball cap able to destroy like space aliens.
Fuck.
And like he shoots lightning that sets you on fire. How does that work?
We're trying to do that.
Yeah, but then you have to be really careful. I often think about that, like if I had a superpower and I still had to live my normal life, it really wouldn't work out that well. I'd probably just like mess up things in my normal life if I was just
If I were to have like any superpower, I would like turn invisible whenever I want.
Why are you just ledge jumping?
I do that all the time.
He was just like on the ledge jump, on the ledge jump, on the ledge.
You will never be able to touch me.
Are you just playing dodgems while they try and kill each other?
Yeah.
Alright, you need a human player. That's a terrible game. Oops, sorry.
Sorry. Okay.
Wish I could start making just take over AI.
That would be cool.
It'd be really cool. Just like hit
I
start
think you
and
can do
start
that in
playing.
Ninja Turtles.
There's probably other games, yeah, that will do it.
Like if you do team one,
Ah.
switch on this, like you can steal the other player's like CPU and die.
There's a weird thing in Civilization 5 where if a human player drops out of the game, AI just takes over their account automatically.
That's what Call of Duty does.
It's really annoying though because it's a turn-based game, and like if their computer crashes and they're gonna jump back in, and you can't pause, so like if a turn goes by while they were gone, the AI might have done stuff that like messed up their plans.
So, I should do Witcher for 10
Yes,
seconds?
please.
Okay.
Please, please, please. Totally love it.
Halloween. Hello? I'm like, what's happening?
Oh,
I
that was
went
incredible.
straight into that.
It should have downed you.
Ah. Trying to go down, but it ain't working.
What level are you guys on?
556.
Which one's safe?
Donkey Kong.
Nice. I love how heavy Donkey Kong is. He's so high in percent, he's still alive. He's
Alright.
teching a little bit too. I didn't think level 6s could tech. Oh gosh.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Really?
His up B is so ridiculous. He just came back from what's the word? Certain destruction. There he goes. Good
Oh,
job.
that's my Pokeball! No!
You
I'm like,
can
yeah,
do
but
it.
she go into it.
Oh, don't be in the middle. Don't be in the middle.
No.
There we go. This is good. Get him. Get him. Oh.
No!
You gotta watch out. His attacks have more range than you.
I remember doing that once and just falling straight down.
I did that yesterday. I laughed so hard.
Goodbye! Please be a bomb.
Oh god, he's got that red shell over there. Ooh, Pokeball. It's a tiny little mouse. Hit the red shell. Throw it at him.
Yay!
Yeah, you were sick.
No!
I'm mostly better.
Again?
Yeah.
I like
it
your
was much
hair.
faster this time.
I like how you
I think it was the same bacteria over again. Because
That's
my
what happened to us.
Emily's parents got it from us, and then they left town for a week, and we were better during that week they were gone, and they came back and
No.
Emily was still sick, because they brought back the same bug we had.
We do that in our family.
Just
Like,
in your family.
I'll
Well,
get sick, then dad, then mom,
yeah,
then yelling,
that's what happened the first time.
then Logan, and then
Jean,
all
then
of us.
Emily, and I stayed good for a week, and then they were finally getting better, and I caught it. So, or no, it was 2 weeks. They were sick for 2. I was sick for 1.
Yeah.
So,
And then like
so a month went by, and I got sick again.
I like how you like how you like
yeah, your hair looks smooth.
I got a haircut too. If I
Yes.
swooshed it when it was long, it would've looked
I
nice.
like your
How
hair.
is this game not over?
Because I'm toying with it.
Nipple. With the nipple.
Yeah! We can do it, Elisa.
playing.
Let's go!
Pretty rare.
I am playing. I do not lose.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Let's see it.
See,
She can talk the talk. Let's
No,
see if she can walk the walk.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Because you know your walk talks louder than your talk talks.
How do I fix it?
Click on CPU.
You're so nice. Oh, there we go. I am not Ganondorf. If you think I'm Ganondorf, you're gonna be lying.
You're fun.
Ayla's nice.
We have a 4th spot.
Why?
Anyone wants to play?
I'm not playing with DK.
I am
Oh.
Mew.
I have 8 kills now. We're gonna change your name. No! I'll live with it though.
Oh.
Yeah, let's go. Oh,
No,
Sam. Stop! There goes Sam!
Okay, who's who?
I'm Paco.
Okay, yeah.
The timing was perfect on that. Oh, I was gonna say, what hit me?
My brother taught me how to do it. Oh, big surprise. Didn't you like Van backpack? I like Van. Yeah, we can use L. How do you pick stuff up again? Ah, no!
Yeah, let's go.
Do you see? Brought a bag of cruise
gotta eat for lunch every day.
I
Okay,
know,
they're
but
good.
just like, have you ever
Texture.
tried the classic Caesar ones?
Oh
Or
no.
like the Italian
What did I
Caesar
walk
ones?
into?
She just decided to bring a bag of croutons
What's
to
the
church.
problem?
Neil,
Like,
like,
yes.
Neil, you would ask mom. Okay, I gotta
croutons.
admit, I did actually
They're
eat
so
like
good.
a gazillion croutons last night, even though I was trying to eat my salad.
Oh man, you finally got me.
What's wrong with croutons? Here,
No.
give me the bag.
Yes.
Give me the bag.
Haha,
Yes. Come on, give me the bag.
she doesn't need to give you the bag. Why do you have donuts?
It's not a donut.
What is it?
It's an apple strudel.
Oh,
That's
that's
what people
How
call
is
it.
that not a donut?
good.
No,
Exactly.
you're
Your
done
face.
Tuesday, not done
Your
Tuesday.
face is a
I
donut.
bet now. How'd you know?
I hate when people eat Man. I keep thinking that I am Miss Gallo because
No.
do you ever eat
I hate cheat for one
a
reason.
salad
That
with
one
croutons?
move.
Good. Okay.
Yes. Hey. Yay.
Weston,
What?
how much is a donut downstairs?
For like a donut.
No.
Ah, I want donut.
Go.
How?
You got
Easy
the button?
moves.
No.
No, not bad.
You don't have a donut?
Hey, like the highest.
I want a donut.
Hey, Daniel. Grab a frappuccino.
Not right now.
I gotta win first.
Falling off the couches.
Hey,
Fighting
this guy
to
might
get
be-
No.
Ayla, you're
I
just
must
so
make this.
nervous.
No. Don't. Don't you dare.
Ayla loves croutons. Ayla loves me.
I do.
No, come on. This spam all day.
Ayla, did you finish your pumpkin?
I'm so confused.
My pumpkin's already dead.
You didn't finish it?
I well, I brought my.
Ayla,
I
when
shot
she
my
took
pumpkin
pictures
with a
of-
shotgun.
That
Yeah,
sounds
it's
you,
my-
Weston. That sounds like you, Weston.
Seriously?
Yep. Hold on one sec.
Let me win.
Oh,
no.
Come on. Told you, Ayla loves me.
You just stick this button in front of my face.
You get one.
And it's from her.
But you did give me a piece of spaghetti.
Ah, that got me.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Hey, what's happening?
It's called a one-on-one.
I'm going to fight next time.
Yeah.
There it is. Just the forward air.
I'm like trying to spam B so I see
Come on,
ready
okay.
to get up, but now you're like, hey.
Who are you?
No.
Good start.
I don't know who that is.
Push start.
Oh.
Hey,
Sorry,
yay.
she played last time.
Thank
She didn't
God.
realize.
I forgot.
She wasn't playing before. Give her a break.
Yum.
Here's my gift card. Get me. You know it's really cute. What's your name?
She can be mute if she wants. Does anyone else want to play? We got a fourth spot.
Oh, me. I
Yeah,
wanna play.
come on,
Hurry up.
Weston.
Give me that thing.
I'm gonna
You
be
can also
a
bring the
Logan.
GameCube forward if you want, because I don't think your cable's very long. If you want to slide in the system.
I'm just gonna be like this.
Okay.
That's
good.
gonna be weird to do.
Back to it.
I'm
Maybe
not
we
good.
both do it.
I'm not
Maybe
even
we both do it. Oh,
Mr.
that's a
David
lot of
Watch.
bouncing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of bouncing.
Mr. Game & Watch is the best.
Oh, we got a Roy player. Haven't had him in a while.
Oh no!
Why
Look
do
at that
people
dimple.
just tap random
Because
buttons?
you don't like it when you get the stage you want.
What happens if you do though?
Hey, well, what kind of noise is that?
Who is who's Mr. Gaming Watch?
Mr. Game & Watch is like a genius.
I'm guessing Daniel's Mr. Gaming Watch.
He just wants to make it challenging.
He
Are
just
you
wants to
boy
make it.
Weston?
Are you dead, Danielle?
Yes, twice. I can't pay attention on this test.
Uh,
Mr. Game & Watch is the
Spam
best.
all the buttons I can
No,
spam.
he
Hey,
isn't.
take it.
Yeah, he is.
No, he isn't.
He is.
No.
Stamina up. Wait.
Daniel's just
Boy.
spamming 6 Who is Mr. Game &
Boy.
Watch?
No.
Daniel's
It's
just
because I don't need to
spamming
do
six.
anything else at this point. I'm
Stop
given the kills.
spamming me.
Wait, who is Mr. Danielle?
You should be able to defeat that. There's a reason why I'm spamming.
Daniel.
It's because you guys aren't playing very well.
I can't see where
Shut
I
up.
am. You
Yeah, no one has hit
Cuneo.
me with anything challenging at all.
You like
Wait,
jazz.
I can just go
You
with
died.
grab kill.
You like jazz.
Yeet! Oh!
what?
Kobe! Kobe!
That was just evil of me.
That's
That was
depressing.
That was
You're
really
depressing.
evil.
You're fake. Me too.
That was so perfect.
No, I'm not.
Stop hitting me with a hammer!
I thought this was a
Just
tournament,
get up
like
and
how
down,
you
see
There we
slide?
go. Someone actually hit me.
Okay.
Come on, man! Fight me!
Calm down.
Why would you do that?
Why are you spamming buttons?
Unpause.
You know what? I'm done. I'm getting over here.
Daniel
I'm
wants
getting
to
in
fall.
this action.
That's funny, Brady.
Stop spamming!
Someone just fell. Ayla, you're not even playing right now. Yeah, I know. I can see that. I can pretend, okay? I have an imagination. Don't sit there, Maya.
Sorry, I had a backpack in my hand.
Oh, well, sorry. That's not my fault. Oh, no. My dear.
You know what?
What happened?
Oh, I could have had. I could have had.
Died.
I got one again. Let's go.
I literally said suicide.
How did I kill him?
I had a lot of percentage. It was
Time
my
to
first
fly, my boys. No, Daniel, don't do it, Daniel. Don't. Weston. No,
Suicide.
Daniel. No, Daniel, don't do it.
We should not play
Okay,
stock anymore
so,
because we
I
keep ending up in
remember
these
when you
one-on-ones.
came here.
No,
A long time
let me
ago.
win. Let me win.
Yeah,
I
no
won.
more stock. It's gotta be time
I
now.
told you. Why do you doubt me?
I don't play time.
Well, then you can quit.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm doing. I'm like, no time for me.
I wanna play. Stop! Yelling!
I don't play time things.
Oh my
I
god.
still have
just,
16 kills. I don't
forgot
care.
how sinky this couch is.
Sinky.
Sinky.
Hey, it's
I
better
like
than
it.
stinky.
Sinky couch. Hold on, just in case my-
Okay, my phone just probably broke.
Weston, you want a controller?
Phone bucket.
I just threw my
Western
phone.
phone
Phone bucket.
I already put mine in!
Very abusive. I gotta put this on silent so that
Are
it
you
doesn't
kidding?
ring.
I can't aim.
I hate it.
One time,
What's wrong with this?
like
I don't
at
like
the
it.
beginning of the year, somebody's phone was ringing. He answered it, and it was Talu's phone, and it was a girl, and he was all like, "Oh, sorry, I have her phone,"
I know.
and we're in the middle of service, and she's all like, "What are you doing to her? Stop doing something to her. What are you doing?"
Oh yeah.
Daniel,
That
you
was
remember that?
hilarious.
Daniel, you remember that?
I don't know what we're talking about.
The phone call in the middle of service.
Oh,
Yeah.
the worst
And you
phone
answered
call.
That was
it. You
hilarious.
answered it, and it was Owen's phone, I remember.
Oh no, that's not even.
That was the best one.
Oh
Like,
my
was
God.
saying.
I gotta say, I misunderstood everything I was saying. She understood it in context. And I didn't realize I was speaking so out of context. She thought I'd like kidnapped Lulu. Like in a very real sense. Like I'm not joking. She thought I was a kidnapper.
That is awful. Why would you do that?
It was
Well, it wasn't
hilarious,
intentional,
bro.
okay?
Me, you, Caleb, and
Everything
this
else
friend
I
were
was
just
saying, I'm
dying.
No,
With laughter.
I will speak.
wasn't that like on a Wednesday night or something?
Yeah, it was a Wednesday night.